see it live on there. Okay. Hello to everyone joining us on LinkedIn and on YouTube. We are talking today about money worries and mental health, something that is super important at this time. We've had so many questions sent in about this topic, and we are joined today by the amazing Sam.
Hello.
So Sam is the co-founder and managing director of New World Financial Group, and they're doing financial advice a little bit differently, making it available to anyone and everyone, not just anyone that's willing to pay you millions of pounds for some financial advice. So we're trying to raise education about mental health and financial well-being today, and how the two are linked. So I'm really pleased to have you joining us today. A bit more about Sam and New World Financial. They deliver financial education, coaching and planning to people at all stages of life. And we are so happy to have you here with us today to answer all of our questions, particularly at this time with what's happening with the economy and all of the pressures that we're feeling. So thanks so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've done a few things with New World Financial recently. It's really good to have the experts in when it comes to such an important topic. So let's dive straight in then. So I'm going to go with some of our questions that we've got sent in, and please, if you're joining us live, do put your questions in the comments, and we'll do our best to answer them today. So I think that we can't go much further without talking about the elephant in the room, and that is, of course, the cost of living crisis that everyone is facing. So is that something that you're coming up a lot when you're doing your workshops and things with employees?
Yeah, completely. We've been running workshops with businesses for a couple of years now. So traditionally, we would go into businesses and help their employees to learn about financial planning, to learn about investments and pensions and the things that you might typically associate with financial advice. But however, we're getting more and more of a demand for financial well-being. So that is helping people with debt management, with budgeting skills, and just basically trying to help navigate the cost of living crisis that everybody's embroiled in at the moment.
Yeah, and every little bit of tips and tricks and money saving hacks and anything that we can do is going to be super valuable right now. I've got no doubt. So I think that one of the things that came up at the Tees Expo that you and I did was this idea of how difficult we find it to talk about our money worries and to talk about our financial well-being and financial health. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, it's a cultural thing, I think, in many ways. I don't think it's unique to Britain, but I think it's
being British thing in some ways.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's a hierarchy thing as well. So I think not only is there shame and embarrassment perhaps around your money, there's also, I think, people that are wealthy that don't want to, some people don't want to push that onto people, and so therefore it creates this invisible barrier that's where nobody ends up talking about it. Yeah,
so people with a lot don't want to boast about it, talk about it, make a big thing about it. People that don't have much are ashamed of that and maybe don't want to admit that.
Yeah, exactly. And people compare themselves to other people as well. So even if your situation maybe isn't as bad as it might be, you compare yourself to people that may perhaps clearly have more than you, or at least on the surface, then it makes you kind of feel as though you're not doing something right, or perhaps you're not in the position that you should be in life. But it's all relative, and that's some of the work that we do with our clients, is helping them to really establish what kind of life they actually want for themselves, and or putting it into perspective, So so we've got this invisible divide where nobody ends up talking about it, and there is shame and embarrassment around it if people are struggling.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that one of the things that you've said to me before is that, and you touched on it there, a lot of the times we don't realise that we're actually in a more financially empowered position than we might believe. Sort of expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so the work that we do with our clients is to try to help them really imagine the life that they would like, particularly in retirement, and also today, because today is all about balance. It's not just about saving to live for the future. And once we do that, and once we get up on the screen, we do cash flow modelling with clients from their current age all the way up to age 100. And once we've established what they're trying to achieve, what are the things they want out of life, and then we pull together, well, what's their current situation, it's not uncommon for clients to really realise that they're in a better position than they thought they were. you know, and it can go the other way. So if they're not,
thanks for keeping it real.
Yeah, that's right. But without that vision, without that plan, without putting it into perspective, you know, where do you even start to know where you're at relative to, you know, where you want to get to, and that's the key thing. It's establishing what you're trying to get out of it all. Only then can you really analyse where you're at. Otherwise, people chase, you know, these imaginary numbers, or they compare themselves to their friends, and they're never really putting a plan in place, because you need a destination ultimately, don't you?
I think that's a really good point, and I think that for a lot of adults, we don't just stop and think, what kind of life do I actually want? And maybe review that year to year as well. Is it still the same as it was 3 years ago? Probably not, because there's just so much change that we're experiencing all the time. Yeah. So I guess your advice there, if you were to distill it down into a few tips, is to think about the life that you want, and then?
So think about the life that you want.
Put some colour around that, like really a dream about what it is.
Yeah, don't hold back.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of people will hold back.
Yeah.
Because naturally they'll think, oh, no, I can't get that. Forget about all of those thoughts about what you can't have, right? Forget about that. Imagine the life that you want. What would make you happy? The things that you'd love to do in life. The things that, what's your ideal retirement age? You know, what's your what kind of holidays do you want to go on? All of these things, family, everything that's all connected to these things. Once you've done that, then analyze what you've got, and only then you can sort of say, well, okay, I'm here at the moment, and this is where I want to be. That's when you put a plan in place. You know, how you may need to adjust your vision for the future, and that's totally fine as well. But without that end goal, it's hard to really analyse what you've got right now, because it's not relative to anything. Yeah. You know? So
daring to dream, and then getting some practicality around that about how to make it happen.
Essentially, yeah.
Not expecting your dream life to fall out of the sky, but, you know, what can I do to make that happen now?
Precisely.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Okay. So we've talked a little bit about taking some of this advice into workplaces. You know, it's where we're earning our money. It's where we're starting to think about being a bit sensible with our money, if we've got any to save and budget. So what are some of the easy things that you think employers can do? What can they put in place to help their staff with kind of the situation right now?
Yeah, first and foremost, I think employers need to have an awareness around the current environment. The presentation that we recently did, we highlighted that I think it was 37% of employees recognise financial concerns or financial worries as their biggest concern at the moment. Yeah. And financial concerns can trickle down into so many different things: life-work balance,
feeling stressed, feeling overwhelmed,
mental health.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'd say the first thing that employers need to do is just have that awareness of the situation that they're in. At the situation that we're in at the moment. A step down from that is, once you've got the awareness, is to create a safe space. I think employees value that employers that recognise the situation, but then creating a safe space where employees are free to open up about it, either on a one-to-one basis or as a group. That leads to...
Okay, I was going to say, we're getting into a bit of a culture discussion there, though, aren't we? So what is the culture of the organisation? Is it a place where we can speak openly and freely? Is there support in place for people to talk about things that are difficult to talk about, right? So things like our mental health, opening up about our struggles, our humanness. And a big part of that, of course, is our resources, so our financial well-being.
Yeah, exactly. And then it comes to education. Okay, so it's not uncommon for people with financial issues to bury their head in the sand a little bit, and also perhaps there are occasions where they just lack a bit of guidance. So knowing things like, you know, debt management, for example, if you know, we're moving out of an era of 0% interest rates, and we probably won't go back there, but what that era has created is a lot of people with, you know, who perhaps had access to easy money, credit cards, loans, cheap money. And, you know, those things need paying back, unfortunately. Rates are creeping up, and what does that do? It impacts your monthly expenditure, which can in turn put pressure on, you know, your general life. You start having to spend less money elsewhere, and things are changing. So debt management is a really important thing to just be aware of. Okay, so things like, you know, if you've got credit card debt, if you've got loans, try and put a sheet together and get to know your interest rates, prioritise highest to lowest, and you know, if you're overpaying, just make sure that you're overpaying on the highest rates rather than the lowest rates, because if you're still paying 0 to 5% on a credit card, for example, you know, maybe that doesn't need to be a higher priority as something that's 20, 21, 22%.
Some of those horrible credit cards, see some of the APRs now, and they're advertising them, they're insane. It's a real struggle for people, I think, that have turned to that. So what would you say, I mean, this is maybe a tricky question, tell me if you've got an answer for this one, but so, you know, we're sort of seeing like a range of things coming to this convergence point, aren't we? So you mentioned interest rates there and people having to start paying things back, mortgages are going up, cost of living's going up, the prices are going up in supermarkets. So for people that are feeling like, oh my goodness, what do I do? What would be your top advice?
Firstly, budget.
Yeah.
You understand your budget. A lot of people tend to live life month to month, week to week, and kind of think, oh, it'll be okay or it won't be okay. But really get to know your budget and plan it. And it, you know, it may not look good, but at least you'll feel more in control of it. You'll know exactly what's coming in and what's going out. So, you know, it's one of the first things that we do with our clients is an income and expenditure. And that establishes a position of we know what we're working with there. I think just a really simple, you know, half an hour to an hour time just to get to really know what's going in and out and become comfortable with it, and then monitor it on a monthly basis, I would say. And things will get a bit easier. I think it might play out 12 to 18 months. You know, we might be in this sort of similar position.
Here first.
Yeah, but it will. I mean, everything's cyclical, okay? Yeah. And we are coming out of a really unique time, and we're paying for it at the moment. You know, you've got we had 0% interest rates anyway, but going into COVID, we had obviously the war on Ukraine. You know, all of these things are just happening all at once, and I think in my opinion, we're at the peak of something much bigger, and where we might end up in the next 3 to 5 to 10 years is a world where the use of energy is completely different. You know, we'll just be in a very different place in terms of what
digital currencies coming in.
Digital currencies, perhaps. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of change coming. You know, workplace, you know, jobs are going to change. And,
AI, robots are coming.
Yeah. I personally see that as an opportunity. So, there will be some people that are impacted in the short term, but as a sort of a, you know, from a human perspective, I think there's opportunity for real growth, and you know, my industry will be impacted massively because a lot of the hard work will be automated, which will give us opportunities to work closely with, not more closely with clients. We'll get to spend more time with them and help them to ultimately do what we try to do, is live better lives.
Yeah, absolutely. I could talk to you about that a lot. I think we're going to get off onto a tangent though.
We'll be there all day.
We would. So I had a question here. So what can I do to help my financial situation? So I think you kind of answered it there. It's like, I think step one is just get some honesty and face your situation. Get it on paper, get your interest rates, get your incoming and outgoings all sorted. And just face up to what's happening.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, then it's the education pieces after that. So, you know, understanding at the very beginning of you know, joining the workforce, understanding what national insurance is and the benefits of that. It's not just something that leaves your pay slip. It's
for anyone who doesn't know, what should we know about national insurance?
Well, national insurance is you know, that you know, if you get your first pay slip, because there's no education on this in schools or anything, you just go straight into the workforce and you see this deduction every month. But ultimately, it's paying for your state pension. You know, so you've got a long time to wait for it, and you know, it does form the basis ultimately of a really valuable income at some stage in your life, you know.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. And then obviously you've got pensions as well, so really understanding the benefits of the pension, you know, of a pension, and understanding the tax benefits. Don't just you know, just because obviously you can opt out of your workplace pension, But once you really understand the benefits, then you probably think twice about doing that, and we would always advise people not to do that unless there was a really specific reason.
So employing a bit more long-term thinking, I suppose.
Precisely.
For younger people, especially entering the workforce, or anyone who hasn't got a pension on the go that's got the option of one.
Exactly. And if you're not aware of the benefits of these things, you're going to resent them a little bit naturally. You're maybe going to opt out of your pension scheme, and yeah, it's long-term thinking, and that's it. And we believe that there's a responsibility on financial services or financial experts to really, educate people on these things. To some people it might be, really obvious, but to others maybe not. And there's nobody else going out there and do it. Like I say, the schooling system is weak in this area, and it's really. I believe the responsibility of financial experts to do something, to do a lot more on financial education, which is obviously what at New World we're trying to do.
Yeah. So for employers that are listening, you've mentioned education there. So, where does their responsibility lie, do you think? Do you think that they should be educating people around around financial health? I think that I sort of just answered it there with my slip up with my words there, but I think that from our perspective, when we're talking about financial well-being, we're thinking about mental health and the impact that not having your finances under control can sort of result in. So is that putting your head in the sand, the overwhelm, the stress, and that will impact ultimately your productivity at work. So what can employers do you think, to equip them with the tools that they might need?
Yeah, well, there's not a lot out there really, but what we're trying to do is build something for employers where they can just lean on the experts effectively. And so we will go into businesses and we will offer them our free financial health check, which allows their employees to do something really simple, spend half an hour putting in answering 30 or 40 questions, and it gives them some guidance at the end of it. So that is like the first step. Okay, so that's available for employers. The next step is we will go into workforces and present to their staff. So as I say, we've got a number of topics that we talk about: financial well-being, financial planning, and if you've got maybe an older workforce or some older employees, we can do some more specialist guidance on retirement planning and the specific questions that they might have about their pension schemes. So there is, and it's employers that need to maybe think more about these things, because again, things are changing, and employers in general, I think, need to sort of broaden their horizons in terms of what they're offering their staff, which obviously lends itself to a lot of the work that you guys are doing. Yeah,
I think it just goes hand in hand, doesn't it, really? Our finances and our resources, our time, our money and our energy. I always say you've really got to think about how we're spending that, where we're focused on it, what we're creating more of with those resources. So, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I suppose feeding that back into well-being then, how important do you think financial well-being is as part of an overall well-being strategy? Because I suppose as an employer, you look at well-being and it is a vast space.
Yeah.
So much that you can offer to your employees, but how does financial well-being sit in that?
So I think it's number one.
Shocking.
I think it goes back to what I mentioned earlier. The 37%. It was a study by WageStream from last year, I think, and I would imagine that it could be even higher now as a number one concern for employees. And the impact that financial well-being can have on general mental health is huge. So yeah, you can't necessarily answer all the problems. You can't just go and give pay rises left, right and centre, particularly in the current environment, but you can offer education which can be so valuable to people at the moment. Because as I say, it's easy to put your head in the sand as an employee. It's easy to worry about these things day to day, but just a little bit of awareness and education can go a long way. Not to making everything abundant and brilliant, but it just it can provide that reassurance you need just to be able to get through this period.
Yeah, I think it's about empowerment, isn't it, with information to take control of your situation. So, if you've got no idea where to turn, then, it can result in that kind of compounded spiral, I suppose. Have you sort of seen anything like that with people coming to you where they're sort of at their wits' end a little bit and need to sort themselves out?
Yeah, it's not uncommon. So again, I'll just touch on the financial services industry a little bit because it doesn't traditionally lend itself to that kind of issue.
Yeah.
So for those that don't know, financial services traditionally, you pay if you've got something, if you need something, or if you have money to invest, right? So a financial advisor would only be paid if they invested your money, okay? So, or if they sold you a financial product. So if you don't have anything, if you don't have any money to invest, then a financial advisor is going to struggle to be paid. So they've got a living to earn, so they can't spend too much time helping people that maybe aren't going to make them much money, and that's the sad fact about it. We believe that that's quite wrong, and also short-sighted. So the things like product sales and investments, the competition for our industry is coming from technology. So financial advisors and the financial services industry need to be much broader in terms of their thinking, their thought processes, who they can help, and also how they charge, how they get paid for that. So we get paid for building financial plans and going into businesses and helping their employees with financial education. And once you move the remuneration away from product sales and investment management into a much broader field, it opens up the opportunity to help more and more people than ever before. So we do see people that perhaps a traditional financial advisor might not see, and those people that really just need, quite often just need a bit of tidying up, just need their, a bit of clarity of direction and clarity of thought. So yeah, it's not uncommon for us to see tears in a lot of our first meetings. Yeah. Excuse me. And it's a really rewarding thing, 2 or 3 or 4 months later, once we've done the work and we've maybe cleaned up some of the issues and just set out some short and medium long-term plans that just help people sleep at night and provide that peace of mind. It is really rewarding work that goes on.
Yeah, for them to be able to sort of see the path to that dream that you've elicited from them about how they want to live. So, yeah, well, I'm not surprised to hear that, but it's really great that you're able to help them in that way. And that's one of the reasons that Key Wellbeing has joined with New World Financial to offer this kind of service and education around financial wellbeing, because you're not just about making money on your products. It is important to you to get this education and information out there to people that really need it. And to be able to help those that otherwise wouldn't have had access to services like yours. Yeah,
well, it's about thinking differently. You know, we make, it's a very narrow-minded view that the profession has in terms of how we're remunerated, and it's always been this way, but it's not going to work long-term, in my opinion, and it's just sort of thinking differently. We are still commercial, but we're commercial in different ways. We're open-minded in terms of, how we get paid, therefore we can be innovative, and and that just ultimately helps everybody. Yeah,
good place to be.
Yeah.
All right, so when people want to find out a little bit more about where they can access the support or the health check that you mentioned, where can they go to do that?
Yeah, so we're quite active on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, we've got personal pages, myself and Lisa Tipton, my fellow director. Simon Warren as well is on there, one of our financial planners. We've got a website, newworldfg.com. So everything gets, dumped on there. The financial health check.
It's useful though.
It is, yeah. The health check, we released version 1 in September last year. Version 2 will be coming out at the very latest in early May. Where are we now? Middle of April?
Middle of April, yeah.
I would think that would
be. So
depending
on when you're watching this.
Yeah, so the difference between the two is that it just really provides a much better user experience. So we'll be launching that, and we'll be making quite a big noise about that when that's time to be released. Yeah.
Nice. And in terms of financial wellbeing workshops, you can check our website, keywellbeing.co.uk. I'm sure we'll get a listing on your website once you've got that sorted as well, so that's good. Yeah. Cool. Cool. Was there anything else that you'd like to add?
I don't think so. I think we've covered a lot.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. And hopefully everyone got a lot out of Sam's tips. And yeah, we'll look forward to catching up with you soon.
Yeah, thanks, Marie.
Thanks.